Hello guys, welcome to part 2 of my M272 engine timing repair series. Now in part 2 I focus on engine removal prep, so basically freeing the engine from wires, hoses, brackets, etc. In part 1 I went over why I'm doing this job in the first place and common timing problems on the M272 engine. Click here to watch part 1 if you haven't seen it yet. I started by removing induction system components such as the air intake ducts and of course the engine cover, which is integrated with the air filter housing. Next, I removed the mass airflow sensor housing, related ducting, and the throttle body connector on the back of the engine. Keep in mind that there are several other connectors on the back of the engine that need to be removed. Here's a tip. The throttle body is right underneath the mass airflow sensor housing, so the connector for the throttle body can be a bit tricky to get to. You will have better luck unplugging and plugging it back in by feel. And by the way, you will need to remove the intake manifold before you pull the engine, because the knock sensor and its connector are underneath the intake manifold. Next, I started working on removing the DME, aka ECM. Then I changed my mind and went on to drain the coolant instead. Not sure why I did that. I guess I needed a change. More on that later. After wearing my swimming goggles, I dove into draining the coolant, but this wasn't before I performed a quick undercar inspection. The wetness you see on the engine splash shield comes from a really bad power steering leak, another gift from Mercedes-Benz that just keeps on giving. I then removed the splash shield to give me good access to the petcock valve to begin the coolant draining process. After unscrewing the petcock valve, the coolant began to drip, albeit slowly, prompting me to suspect that I had not uncapped the coolant reservoir. So I jumped on the chair and opened the floodgates, and boy was that a mini mess. And did I mention I forgot to record the part where I drained the engine oil? After the fun I had with draining the coolant, I got back under the hood and disconnected the rest of the wiring, hoses and the DME. Now I've done my fair share of engine swaps and repairs, and if I had one advice, it would be to take lots of photos and videos. And it might sound awkward, but I talk to myself through what I'm doing. When I go to put things back together, it helps a lot with things like brackets and hoses. And now to the exhaust system. Not a very good view of the exhaust system here, but in addition to two brackets, all I needed to do was to disconnect the entire exhaust system at the manifold flanges. The manifold itself stayed on the engine. When it was time to pull the engine, my cherry picker just about made the clearance. But I didn't want to break any plastic parts, so I lifted the engine, put some bricks underneath it, set the engine on top of the bricks, and reset the cherry picker. That gave me enough clearance to get the engine out without adding to the needing repair tally. If you have to do this, make sure you don't set the brick on the rack and pinion. I called in for some backup for the final push, and just like that, she was free, ready to get her timing issues behind her. With the help of these Daytona dollies I picked up from Harbor Freight, which quite frankly turned out to be pretty nice, we pushed the car to one side of the garage so that it was not in the way of other work I had to do. And this brings me to the end of part 2. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe if you liked the video. See you in part 3.